What's up, guys? I'm Shreyas Laddha. I have my guy Carter Stanley here, and it's another episode of Rock Chalk Film Room. This one is Kansas playing Cincinnati, and we wanted to focus on the dual threat ability of Brendan Sorsby. He's having an excellent year: 8 touchdowns, 1 interception, thrown for over 650 yards, another 200 yards on the ground. I think 3 tutties. Kansas over the years has struggled with dual threat quarterbacks. I think this is the second one they're playing this year. They played Perula a couple weeks ago. Obviously, they contained him well on the ground with only 9 rushing yards, or I say 6 rushing yards from 9 carries. But he torched him in the air, 300 plus, passing yards, 3 touchdowns. So this should be an interesting matchup, and there's a lot to kind of see from this Cincinnati offense.
Yeah, Sorsby, he impresses me. I think in this first clip, you'll see just a quick release, really quick release. When he pulls the trigger, when he's decisive on who he wants to throw to, it gets out super quick. And number 9, this receiver that just caught the ball and has another great catch here, Caldwell, transfer from none other than Lindenwood, powerhouse in the Midwest that we opened with last year. But no, they can be dangerous. And Sorsby, to your point, Trey, is definitely a dual threat, certified dual threat. But I think what impresses me the most is that quick release and how fluid it is.
Yeah, I think the one of the most interesting things with Sorsby is he's kind of an older quarterback. I mean, he's a junior. He's played some games before. He's experienced. I don't think it's like Bo Perula where we don't really know what the tape is. Sorsby's been playing football in college for a while where there's a lot of tape on him. He's had an excellent start to the year. Cincinnati has picked up a lot of guys in the transfer portal, like you mentioned earlier. Caldwell from Lindenwood, which I remember. I think he had a really nice catch against Kansas in that game, last year. So it's interesting to see how Kansas is trying to emulate him. I asked DK McDonald, the defensive coordinator, about that today, and he said they're using freshman quarterback David McComb, who's not on the depth chart, mind you, but he's kind of the closest version to, I think, what Sorsby kind of has. He's a dual threat. He is a big arm on him. They're using him to kind of emulate him, his play in the scout team. And obviously nothing's a 1-to-1, but it's interesting to see that they went with McComb instead of somebody like Isaiah Marshall, who is also, I think some would say, a dual threat, I guess maybe more inclined to run than pass. But I came away pretty impressed with everything I've seen. Like you said, that quick release is the thing that really stands out because that's the stuff that can get, I think, Kansas secondary in trouble a little bit with if he's decisive with where he wants to go.
Yeah, I mean, this first play of the clip alone, like he just kind of pumps the hitch out here and then ends up hitting Caldwell on the seam. It's that can definitely be dangerous, especially if you're playing zone coverage defensively. And then obviously the placement on this one, incredible catch by Caldwell. But yeah, I mean, it's not only the arm, it's the legs as well. He's a dual threat. And, on this next clip, I think what you'll see is this first play, it's honestly just an RPO where whether he made the wrong read or just didn't like what he saw out there out of the receiver after keeping the ball, he ends up just keeping it himself, and it kind of shows his athleticism on, picking up, 10, 15 yards on essentially a broken play. And, pretty much the next play here, you're going to see a designed run this time. And this is QB draw all the way. I know it looks like he's dropping back. These receivers, they're just kind of running off their guys and occupying those defensive backs. So, it's essentially down to Sorsby, Cincy's O-line, and then the front 7 for Bowling Green. So obviously you can see they get it blocked up pretty well, and Sorsby, combination of athleticism and a little bit of grit, gets it in for 6.
Yeah, I was talking to Lyric Rawls about that. He said, it's important to kind of keep him in that pocket as much as you can, because that way Kansas's linebackers and defensive linemen are not on their heels. And I think we saw that at points throughout the year where when they're on their heels, it feels like Kansas is always playing catch up in whether it's a quarterback or a running back. And we've seen, obviously points of emphasis for them has been not missing tackles. And they did a great job of that against West Virginia, where they weren't making a lot of errors in misjudgment and they limited the missed tackles. But against Missouri, right, because of how athletic Bo Perula was, obviously didn't run that much. But between the running backs and Perula's ability to kind of be dual threat, it feels like there's always kind of that edge to these guys because, like you said, he can go off and tuck it in and run, and he's a big guy. It's hard to bring down a guy this big, and obviously Kansas's linebacker room is pretty young this year. It's not like a veteran, so they can be juked out, and a lot of different kind of ways they can go about it.
Yeah. I think just from a mentality standpoint, I think it was very evident KU's defense was ready for the tempo last week against West Virginia. It was like ball carrier goes down, and defense was seemingly like set and in position before West Virginia's offense was set and in position. And, they were fully prepped for that. And I felt like that carried over to not only pre-snap getting a line, but just flying to the ball. There was some big-time hits, Rawls included. He had a big-time hit during the game. And, I think just mentally that kind of put our defense in a state of, all right, we got to fly around. And, I think you want to see that carried over even to a team like Cincinnati where they're not going to be crazy with tempo. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be more in line with kind of what our offense does, where there's spurts of tempo, but also for the most part, it's going to be kind of normal tempo wise. But no, I think if you just get in that mentality of flying around and making plays, that's going to take you a long way.
Yeah. Do you have perspective as a quarterback? Obviously, I know you're not necessarily going to tuck and run, but you did it when you were at Kansas. You had the opportunity and you went for tough yards. I've seen the highlights. This guy's a bigger QB. What is that kind of perspective of like, okay, when do I decide to tuck and run versus, okay, I need to sit in the pocket and wait for the play to develop?
Yeah, I mean, I think it, really depends on down and distance and how the game's flowing. If you got guys open and, also based off your game plan, if there's longer developing passes, more drop back passes, that's where you're going to have more opportunities to take off and run. Whereas, if it's quick game, you get 1 to 2 reads and, ball's either coming out or you got the pressure on you. And honestly, there's not a lot of great running opportunities in quick game. It's more so, say, 3rd and 8, 3rd and long, where everyone's kind of dispersed. The play is developed a little bit, and that allows you to take off and run. So, I think KU just, having a guy, not necessarily a spy, having a full commitment to a spy linebacker, but just being cognizant of Sorsby's ability to run on those crucial downs.
Yeah. Do you expect Kansas to kind of do anything special against Sorsby because of his dual threat ability?
I don't think so. I think he's not quite to that point of a running threat. Mm-hmm. And that's, watch, that'll come back to bite me. He'll run for 200 yards. But no, I think he's still definitely a pass first quarterback. And, I think if you look at their stats up until this point, they kind of have a committee running back room where, it's not one guy who's running for 100 yards, Sorsby included, although he is their leading rusher. But it's, they kind of like to get 3 or 4 guys running the ball and, each get about 40 yards a game, hopefully not on Saturday. But no, I think they kind of space it out amongst some guys.
100%. I'm excited to see what happens. I mean, Kansas looks to get it 2 straight dominant wins in the Big 12. I think they're 6.5-point favorites at this point. So it should be an interesting game. I think it'll be close either way.
Yeah, no, it'll be good. It was great to see, comfortable win last week coming off the bye. They were ready for that tempo and, get back in the win columns. They're 3-1, start off 1-0 in the conference. And yeah, just take it one game at a time, handle business here, hopefully, and be on to the next.
100%. Can't wait to see it. Thanks, Carter.